Hello, what is going on, dudes? My name is 15, and I guess sorry for doing another rambling review so quickly after the last one, but since I completed Persona 3 Reload, which I was playing during the time I actually made the Persona 4 rambling review, I have basically been unable to think about like any other games besides Persona 3 Reload. I had so much more fun with it. I have a bunch to talk about. And so I guess we can kind of get started here. So the story kind of goes as all the Persona games do, where you as the main character have basically come to a new town and you're there for a year. However, this time around, because Makoto has neither of his parents, he's coming there basically to live and finish schooling out at Gekugan High, and I don't remember the city name. I'll put it up on the screen. I don't remember what it's called. It may be the same, but it's fine. Now, I kind of was thinking about this because I was trying to place how Makoto felt in this story, because he himself is kind of very, very blank. Like, compared to Ren in Persona 5, where you know his story, you know the reason why he was here, even though you don't know any of his family members from where he came from, you know how he got to where he is at the moment. And sort of the same with Persona 4. You know, you is actually the same as Ren in that sense, where you know he came from something else and there's a reason he's there and everything like that. When in reality, it kind of feels weird in the sense how Makoto ends up in the town with everybody else. And I think it's the story reason where it's like, because of how every one of your party members gets gathered because they have this potential and whatnot. That's why everybody has been brought to this dorm and everything like that. And I'm pretty sure that's probably the actual reason, but it just kind of feels weird. He just kind of feels like he's almost out of place in a sense. Though there's an aspect to how Makoto is that he feels very bland as a character, right? Obviously, all the main characters are that way, aiming a blank slate basically, so you can put whatever you want to onto those characters and be the kind of character you want to be. But it also does make sense even more so for Makoto than the other protagonists because of story reasons. Later on, I'm not actually going to spoil them because I would like you to play the game because I think it's so good. But it kind of works. Like I realized this as I was playing through it once I got to that point, and learning about that story beat, I thought, oh wait, now it makes sense to why he kind of is like he is. So, one more mention on the whole story thing. I might put this earlier back when I was talking about the story, but not important. This one felt like it had a lot more gravitas than Persona 4, I will say that. Persona 4, I loved the characters more because you got to experience more time with the characters and all of the characters, and not all of them felt like they needed you as the player. I swear to God, cat, this little shit jumps on my damn piano. I'm gonna take a picture of him right now in the middle of me recording this. Yes, you will pay for your crimes, my little boy. You will pay for your crimes for interrupting my recording session. Yup. My little goofball. Mother trucker jumped on the piano, and I don't like that. I don't like that. It was Tartarus, by the way. The camera doesn't make it look like it, but it's very green. But the story felt like it had a lot more gravitas because you had to make basically the impossible decision at the very end of it, right before things happen. And it's not even like an evil person telling you that you need to make this decision. It's a very kind, caring person that recommends you make one decision over the other. And obviously, if you go against their decision, you get to have the good ending. And the good ending is actually super impactful. The bad ending really is a bad ending because nothing happens. And I still don't understand it. Spoiler alert, I'm going to talk about the bad ending real quick. You'll see a time code on the screen to where you should skip if you want to avoid this spoiler. Now, when it comes to the bad ending, you just end up at the same date as the good ending, except you just have a normal assembly where the graduates talk about things. And then you just go to karaoke and that ends. It just ends. But I don't understand, because the whole point of making the choice is that you wouldn't remember everything, and then the world will just end after the timeline was up. Whether, I don't know if it's the timeline in general is like you're in a different timeline now where you don't remember all the things, so the timeline that you were in is the one that died. But you basically give up all your memories of everything that happened during the Dark Hour, which means you basically lose all the bonds that you made throughout the entire time, except for Junpei and Yukari, which is interesting. I don't know. I still don't really understand it, so it was very confusing, and I'm glad that I picked the good ending, because it's like, of course I'm gonna fight a god. It's Persona. We're gonna go fight the god of death, and we're gonna win. Anyway. The spoiler is over. I do know that in Persona 3 Portable, they did have a female protagonist. I don't know why they didn't bring that back. I feel like that would be quite simple to do in the sense, because we'll go into that, because unlike the other Persona games, you don't get to necessarily build social links, that's the word, social links with the male friends of the group, which also includes Koromaru, the dog, who is the best boy. We'll talk about him a little bit later. But you only get a couple opportunities to spend the time with the guys, and so as soon as I got those opportunities, I'm like, I'm doing that. I'm going to hang out with them today, because it was kind of a thing. You had very limited amount of time, including one party member who is not with you the entire time. You have very limited opportunities to spend with that character, and you wanna make sure that you get them. You do them, because it's not like a social rank thing where you can kind of do it whenever. You have a certain window of time you can get them done, and you only have a couple opportunities per character throughout the entirety of the story, and they will just come up, which I didn't like that as much, because I loved being able to spend a bunch of time with Yosuke, or, Yusuke. Unfortunately, they have similar names, but two entirely different characters. Or Ryuji or Kanji, where like you have this amount of time that you can go and you can spend and you can hang out with those and boost your social ranks. It was interesting, the fact that you didn't get to do that with the guys in this game. And so as a result, you had more random NPC characters that you could build support with, which was interesting, because some of them are really, really good, and some of them I don't really give a shit about, and some of them I actively despise. I guess, as we're talking about those NPC characters, as I kind of just drifted into that, I do want to talk about my first level 10 rank that I got in the game was with Kazuichi, who is the chariot persona, who is one of the first people you meet. I don't know if you have to do the track team sort of thing, if that is like an actual story beat, because there are a whole bunch of things that actually happen with that. You make another social rank off of that. I forget exactly who. I can see his face. I forget his name, because I didn't spend that much time with him. I got him to like level 5 or level 6 or something like that, but I didn't end up finishing that rank. I really love that story, and how you had that, and you also have Kamiki. Kamiki's story is the best. Like, and this is out of the NPC characters, because I'll talk about the party characters and how they grow and whatnot. But I loved Kamiki's sort of thing, where you were with this guy who was dying. He was going to die, and you were helping him basically make peace with the fact that he was going to die. And his story made me feel so bad. And then going back there at the wrap up of the game, when you're going to talk to all the people you had level 10s with, right before everything happens, his mother is there, and you go talk to his mother, and oh my god, that made me tear up. That was so. I have a little clip of it, but I'm not going to play all of it, because it's like it made me so sad, because it was so sweet. It was such a good little thing, and that's something that it was not as easy compared to the other Persona games, because you get super close to your party, and the outside players are not that important, and that's, I guess, one of the benefits of not having to build the social links with the guy characters, where you have that extra time to spend with these other characters. But it came to a point with Kamiki, every Sunday I'm going to see him. I'm literally going to see him. I really liked Maiko's story. Maiko was adorable. A bunch of the other students were really, really good. I really liked Yuko. Yuko was the girl I ended up picking to romance, because I felt like she herself was a very independent person who did not need the main character, and yet you could still build a relationship with her because she was responsible track team manager, also had this idea of trying to figure out what she wanted to do, and then realizing it's like, oh yeah, I have to do this. I may not have time to spend time with you, and this sort of thing later on. And I'm like, and like the final conversation thing you have with her, and that to me was like, I really liked that, because you had a realistic character, and you're in high school and you have a realistic character who is like, oh, this is high school. This probably is not going to last, but it's a real person. I really liked Yuko because of that. And that is actually going to transition. Speaking of the girls, we'll transition to the girls of the party, because everybody's great. All the voice performances are great. I don't know how many of the cast was recast from Persona 3 Reload or Persona 3 Portable to Reload. I know Junpei was recast, and I'll talk about that in a little bit. I'm actually getting ahead of myself because I wanted to talk about the girls and such. With the girls, once you actually got to build social ranks with them, it felt like they became very one-dimensional. In their social ranks, they were super heavily reliant on the player character. They didn't feel like they were anything outside of a romanceable option. They didn't feel like they were your friends in the sense that they had more weight to them. They just felt super shallow at that point, because you had Yukari's whole thing initially. She didn't want to rely on guys, which makes sense, but it's also it really didn't make sense coming from her background. If the whole thing was just because of what her mom did after their dad's death or something, after her dad's death, realistically, not their dad, because it's not her mother's dad as well. It felt like the way things changed. I mean, I think Yukari was better, but Fuka wanting to just cook for you, and then Mitsuto obviously understanding that she doesn't need to just go along with what other people say, that she can do her own thing. I mean, that was kind of cool. But it felt like everybody was just in love with the main character of the main cast, and it was a little bit annoying because it felt, I guess, less special. Like, especially, I mean, Aigis is super in love with the main character, and that's not only a story thing. I said starty, and I don't know why I said that, but story thing, which it makes a little more sense for Aigis compared to the other girls. I don't know. It was strange. Actually, I want to talk about. I learned near the end that there's no jealousy system, because technically, once you complete the final act, you basically skip like a couple months. It's like actually just a little over a month. So you skip past Valentine's Day. So you don't have the Valentine's Day events like you did in Persona 4 or Persona 5, where if you romance more than one girl, you do get penalized in a sense with an event. But in Persona 3 Reload, you only get penalized with Fuka saying that things were very, very awkward while you're in Tartarus. That's really about it, which is interesting. So you can basically romance every girl in the game, and it doesn't impact anything, which is just so weird. So I didn't actually, I romanced, when I learned about that, I romanced Aigis at the end. But it was Aigis and just Yuko, because Yuko is the one that I actually really liked. But it's also like, once you build that max relationship with someone, it's like you have very little like opportunities to actually hang out and do stuff with them that wouldn't like waste a day, quote unquote, normal gameplay. Like, obviously you can go and do something with them, but it doesn't help you in any sense, and you don't get any new events. That's the big thing. With that, let's go talk a little bit about the voice cast, because the voice cast did so good. Like, Zeno Robinson did so good as his voice actor. Like, he brought Junpei to life and made him like a playful guy, and it was so fun. I really loved how he portrayed him.
In fact, the tales of the amazing battles I survived should be handed down through every generation forever.
Look who's talking. Weren't you the one who was sulking and giving us a hard time?
Well, that was the passion of my youth. I've matured since. You think so too, right, dude? That's right. I'm a man with a plan. You're not gonna want to miss this.
And it was, I really love, I just also love Junpei's character arc, excuse me. His character art too. He got a major fucking glow up from Persona 3 Portable to Persona 3 Reload because he looked like a deadbeat ass in Persona 3 Portable, but in this game he looks actually good. He looks like a normal guy. And I also love his character arc because he started out as kind of like a sex pest, the kind of guy he's the quote unquote typical teenage boy who cares too much about like trying to get girls and whatnot. And then an event happens later on in the story that makes him change, and his persona evolves because of that. And I also love that this is kind of connected to it, but everybody's personas in the game evolve based on events that happen to them in the story, rather than you getting to level 10 with them like how it is in the other games, which is interesting. They changed that from Persona 3 to Persona 4. It is super cool because that moment that happens to Junpei is so impactful for him, and it changes everything for him. Everybody and several other people actually get their persona growth from the same event as well, and it felt supernatural because it is how the personas are. They're your heart, they're your mind within your like an expression of your inner self in the sense, and it made sense that they would evolve at those moments. And I thought it was I really liked that. And with Junpei evolves. Just his transformation is great because he starts out as jealous, and also kind of like the sex pest sort of thing, and he evolves to becoming a really good dude and a really good person. And I really love that because that made up for a decent amount of the other shortcomings with some of the other characters. I also really liked Koromaru. It's so funny just having a dog, and it also is really funny because a person did the dog's voice. It's not even like they didn't use dog barks or anything like that. They had a person do it, and I just find that funny. But he's so funny. He's a very strong persona user too, which is cool. You good, Koromaru? Something else I will mention is actually that I read about this and then I started thinking about it because I'm like, oh yeah, that's true. So in Persona 4, I read this article about the Persona 4 late game stuff because they were talking about the remake, which is going to come out sometime. I don't remember if they gave some sort of thing or if there's even been a showcase of it yet, but so I'm gonna add this into the video because I was actually looking it up while I was I just started editing because I'm like, why not? And it's actually been like formally announced. I didn't even realize it. It's called Persona 4 Revival is what they're gonna call it, which is interesting. And then I'm looking at it, and then I look at this, and I remember the street, and it's like, bro, I am so unbelievably excited. Who knows when it's gonna come out, but bro. Some of the voice cast for Persona 4, many of them have not been asked back, which is very unfortunate, especially like Yuri Lowenthal not being asked back for Yosuke. That's gonna be ridiculous because and I'm hoping they'll do a good job because they did as far as I know, they did a good job recasting from Persona 3 Portable to Persona 3 Reload because all the voice cast they had for Persona 3 Reload was great. So I'm hoping that they are able to do good. It'll be weird hearing the new cast though. Getting back on topic, so the late game characters you got on your team in Persona 4, despite me really using them, are kind of pointless. Like, you have a bunch of repeats, you have some units that are just de facto worse than others, and you really don't need anything outside of like the first 5 characters that you have in the game. Yosuke, Chie, Yukiko, and Kanji. You don't really need anyone other than that in the rest of the game. And they're not as impactful, but every one of the party members in the game have their own uses and whatnot, and even like the last ones you get in the game are actually like the strongest members you get, which is kind of funny. Like, Aigis is absolutely ridiculous. Ken ended up being incredibly useful, especially when I challenged the Reaper, and Ken, Aigis, Yukari were my teammates for that, and also my final battle teammates, because I could literally just boost I could just boost the shit out of Aigis have 2 healers and just have myself be support and just eliminate them. And it was so fun. Like, oh my god, that was how I beat the Reaper, is literally buffing Aegis and sending Aegis into kill. It was so good. 210,000? Bro, we just went up 6 levels. And with that, since we just kind of happened to go into gameplay, it is the gameplay is like is super similar, obviously, to every other Persona game. Traditional JRPG, every single Persona has their own strengths and the weaknesses, and you get the extra hits if you do the weaknesses, and you also get buffs when you pass from one of your teammates to another, which is a thing in Persona 5 Royal, which I've been playing recently because I wanted to see, and that's like I'm gonna make one of these videos about that when I'm done with that, because that game has been crazy so far going through and realizing, oh my god, this is different. But you get the buffs from that, and everyone has their own Theurgie, and the Theurgies are basically like a superpower hit that every single character can get after they build up a certain amount once their Theurgie gauge gets filled up. And then they can use it, and you have, for the main character, you have a whole bunch of different ones depending on the numbers of personas you've summoned. You can unlock basically all the different Theurgie skills, and eventually you get one where it's like the trickster gods do like a severe slashing damage attack, and it's huge damage. And everyone gets a new Theurgie ability as well when I forget if it's when you get to level 10 with them, or if it's you complete all of their optional things like for the guys, or if it's you get that from doing the extra events with them. I forget exactly when you get them, but everyone can unlock another Theurgie ability later on. They're really sick animations, like especially Aegis's, especially the second of Aegis's. I forget what it's called because I remember Orgia mode is the one that I remember, which is the one where she just goes nuclear on and you can't control her for a couple turns. But I kind of liked Tartarus. I feel like it was just a lot of what they did in the Persona 4 dungeons, but worse. It really is like a mix of the Persona 4 dungeon layout and the Mementos sort of style of it. And I'm not. It's fine. It's not the most fun. I do really like the palaces that they have in Persona 5. Realistically, those are the best that they've done in the entire series. But I was like, why did I forget what it's called? Because I literally named my fucking computer Tartarus. Because if you missed the video that I made, I showed off the PCs Jadric and I built, and I have the Persona 3 Reload height case, and it's colored green because of Tartarus and the Dark Hour. But yeah, the Dark Hour. Let's mention the Dark Hour. The Dark Hour is the new mechanic in this game where basically at midnight there is an extra hour of just where every person should be transmogrified, as they call it, into coffins, and so they're not experiencing the Dark Hour, while those who have the ability Persona can actually experience the Dark Hour. And that's when you're going and you're fighting in Tartarus, and you're also challenging the bosses, because every full moon you have another boss. And then defeating all the bosses is what leads to the climax of the story. As per usual, to be fair, but in a little bit of a different way. The Persona list is basically the same as every other one of the Persona games, with like switching up in which ones are available earlier and which ones are available later. Like I will just make another Persona 5 Royal mention, or Persona 5 in general, where Incubus is available way earlier than he is in in this game. It's not really that important, but they basically just decide to change that order however they feel when the games come out, which is interesting. And now I want to talk about Persona 3's music. Bruh, this is the thing that makes me keep thinking about it, is that you have such banger tracks throughout the entire game. All the vocal tracks are so good. And you've probably heard people use some of the battle music. It's going down now, which is like, I've used that in a couple videos. The ending theme is really, really good. The intro theme is really good, and you have all of the different tracks basically using motifs of one another. And my favorite song, I think, in the game is like Changing Seasons, because like, sun's up, another day goes by, look up and time flies. It just feels like so poetic, especially at the time of the game when it starts playing. Anyway, I'm gonna play some of the tracks for you. Sun's up, another day goes by, look up and Okay, there's probably more that I could talk about at this point, but I kind of made myself a little bit of a list because I wanted to make sure I didn't miss things, because there were some things actually in that Persona 1 that I did miss and forgot to talk about and I think about, and I would like to add, but I don't really know if I want to remake that video, and I don't think I will. I'll probably talk about it again whenever the Persona 4 remake comes out. But I love this game, bro. I love it so much. They're all like they do something different with the Persona games, and I love how they don't do a Pokemon where they stick to the same formula, and it's great. Like, they change things up, they take risks with the story and the characters and things that they do with them, and change how the cognitive world works in every different game, and I really like what they do. And it was also kind of funny, I forgot one other character, which, I mean, she initially was interesting, but then it got to be like, she was like too dependent, or whatever. Chidori. Not Chidori. Chidori is a different character. I'm not going to show a picture of Chidori. Chidori is important to the story. Chihiro, who is... It's interesting because I didn't realize this, that when you go... In Persona 4, you, as a group, go visit Tatsumi Port Island, and you visit the school there, and you meet Chihiro, who is now the student council president because she's a third year. And I didn't realize that until I was actually playing the game, and I realized, oh, wait. No, wait, she's a first year? Interesting. And then it's like, oh, yeah, because Persona 4 was 2 years after. And I thought that was really cool because I made that connection after playing Persona 3 afterwards, but it doesn't really matter. So I fucking love the game. It's so much fun, so flashy, and I was addicted to it, literally addicted to it for such an amount of time, and I can't stop thinking about it because it's so good. Oh, and I'm gonna play episode Igus soon, and I'm gonna do a video on that as well. But I hope you all enjoy. If you did, I like, so it was appreciated. Make sure to go play the game. I highly recommend it. So thanks for watching, and I will talk to you all later.
Oh, baby.